I'll be speaking on the way of spiritual men. The way of spiritual men. Now, please note that there's a big difference between spiritual men and spirits. I did not say the way of spirits, but instead I said the way of spiritual men. Spiritual men are those individuals that understands the move, the language, the signals, the way, the acts, and the culture of spirits. Spiritual, you know, it can be found in both the kingdom of light and the kingdom of darkness. But my attention is on the kingdom of light. So spirituality, when you hear spirituality, it does not necessarily have to do with God, because spirituality has two sides. There can be the dark one, and there can be the one from the kingdom of light, which is from God. Do you get it? When we say spirituality involves anything that is beyond the natural. Anything that can produce the supernatural is spiritual. For instance, witches and wizards can disappear. They can disappear to appear in another place. That's supernatural. Somebody can be working with the devil and still raise the dead. That is supernatural. So when we talk about spiritual is in two dimensions. It can be from the kingdom of darkness and it can be from the kingdom of light. So when you hear spirituality, don't just jump into it. You have to clarify things. Which of this kingdom are we dealing with? Is it the kingdom of light or the kingdom of darkness? Now, spirituality can be found in both the kingdom of light and the kingdom of darkness, as I've said earlier. But for this teaching, my attention is on the kingdom of light. He who understands the culture of God and his desires part time is qualified to be called a spiritual man. What makes you a spiritual person is your understanding of the culture of God and the desires of God. For instance, if you give a spiritual man a huge sum of money, maybe you give him 100 million. Now, maybe the kind of money he has never handled before. He won't start spending the money just because you have given it to him. He will want to take, you know, he will want to take a fast, or he will want to pray to know the will of God concerning the money. If you give them a valuable asset, maybe an estate was given out to them. Now, they will want to go on a retreat to seek the face of God concerning that which you have given to them. Can you see that reality now? If you threaten them, or maybe you threaten to kill them, they won't come to you to ask if you are serious or not. They will want to hear God on the matter first. I heard the story of how Riyad Bonki entered a place, and a lady looked at him and suddenly began to cry. Of course, he won't he will not move alone, as there are a lot of people around him, a lot of people following him everywhere. But he did not even ask the people around him to know why the lady was crying. He turned to God and said, "Why was the lady crying when she saw me?" Then the Lord said, "She saw Jesus in your eyes." Can you see that? God was more real to him than the people around him. That was why, instead of asking the people around him, he chose to ask God directly. That's the exact picture I'm trying to paint. The way of spiritual men is the way of the kingdom. They know they have a king in their kingdom and they are aware of his supremacy. So, what we call spirituality with respect to kingdom of light definition is your submission to the king, which is God. It's not about jumping around, prophesying. No, it's not even about what you do. It's not about the manifestations, those miraculous things you do. That's not it. It's about your submission to God. If you are not submitted to God, you are not spiritual. A spiritual person must be able to understand the will of God. He must be able to carry the burden of the kingdom. What is God saying at the moment? What is the emphasis of the Spirit of God for this season? What is the will of God for now? If you can't answer that question, don't call yourself a spiritual person. Don't let speaking in tongues deceive you. It's good, but it's more than that. If you are not submitted to Him, you are not spiritual. And if you are not spiritual, of course, you are carnal. To be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life eternal. So pick one. Well, we advise you to be spiritually minded. Being spiritually minded means you are spiritually conscious. What does it mean to be spiritually conscious? It means you are conscious of the rulership of a king over your life, and that is God. Many times Jesus will always say, I and my Father, we are one. That is God being conscious of the reality of the king, which is God. That is Jesus being conscious of the realities of a king, which is God. So you also must be conscious of Jesus, because we have been sent out as ministers by Jesus. So you need to be conscious of Him. You need to be submitted to Him for you to be qualified to be called a spiritual person. This is the wisdom of God. Don't sell it.